Welcome to All Wheel Driven, a podcast by Audi Club North America, where we explore all things Audi and the incredible people who bring it to life. All Wheel Driven is presented by XPEL, the official paint protection film of Audi Club. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us on another episode of All Wheel Driven. I am your host, Joe Kaczynski. Each episode, we take a look at the latest Audi headlines, and we offer both a recap and our perspective into the stories that shape the Audi brand. For today's episode, we are going to focus on the Audi Finland driving experience. To help me talk about that, I've got some folks here that went through that experience firsthand. I'm joined today by Chris May, Steve Smotrich, and Roz Westlake. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Certainly excited to talk about the driving experiences that you've had. Before we get into that, though, I'd like to just do a quick introduction of all of you, if you don't mind, just a little bit of a background, how you got here today and your affiliation with Audi. So, Chris May, if you don't mind starting us off.
Yeah, happily, Joe. Thanks so much for the opportunity and for having us on this episode. I'm Chris May. For regular viewers, you may recognize me. I'm the executive director of Audi Club North America. I've been in this role for a couple of years now, and it's just always a pleasure to engage with members and work every day to bring more exciting activities and benefits back to our membership. But enough about me. It's really about the experience and our member guests here as well. So I'll turn it over to Steve and Ross.
Thanks, Chris, and thank you, Joe, for hosting. It's a pleasure to be here today with my wife, Roz Westlake. Again, I'm Steve Smotrich. Joined the Audi Club in 2000 after I got my B5 S4, which regrettably I sold several years ago. Should never have sold it, but anyway. Was a member of the National Finance Committee for a couple years, and most recently joined the board of the Audi Club New Jersey. We're trying to get the club sort of reinvigorated. So I stepped into that role. Chris, thank you for sort of getting me involved. Currently serve as treasurer, and we're looking to sort of do more activities with the club.
I'm Roz Westlake, and I'm just a household member, but I do enjoy cars. Steve and I met over cars, and so I'm just along for the ride.
More.
Great. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. So wanted to start talking about the Audi Club driving experiences in a little bit more detail, if I could. So, and Chris, maybe this is something you can start off with. The Audi Club offers these driving experiences. They have for a number of years. I believe it started kind of with just kind of domestic experiences here in the country, and now it's expanded international. Can you give a little bit of a evolution on these experiences? Kind of how did it start and how did it start growing overseas?
Sure. It's been a learning experience for me too. So, obviously I'm a more recent addition to the Audi Club staff. I've been a board member prior to that, a member and Audi owner for much longer. So definitely an organic experience coming up and learning about these opportunities. But from what I understand, and having been in this seat for a couple of years and doing my research, Audi driving experience itself is in Europe. It's something that's been around since the 80s. And I can't remember the exact year, but if you go back and remember, the ski jump commercial, right, where the Audi's climbing the ski slope, it came out, they started doing those experiences kind of shortly thereafter to demonstrate to potential customers, the advantage of quattro, right? We learned about this, and Steve and Roz may have maybe something to add here, but I remember I think it was on the Seyfeld trip in 2024 or 5.
January 25. Yeah.
And that they were telling us about that more specifically. So it's got a 40 plus year roughly pedigree, and based on research we've done here at Audi Club, we've been in lockstep with them for almost as long. Audi Club was established informally, I guess you could say, or more formally in 1984, 85, and then became a nonprofit a few years later. But we've been around pretty much since Audi started, refocusing on the U.S. market following, I guess it was, the Audi 5000 unintended acceleration, right? Audi Club was born out of that. And shortly thereafter, having a club founded on experiential, right, and the advantage of quattro on a closed course track, right, it was only natural for us to start offering experiences abroad that were similar and lifestyle oriented and car control oriented. So as far as I know, Audi Club has been partnering with Audi Driving Experience in Germany, since the late 80s, at least early 90s, primarily on the Seefeld ice driving or winter driving experience. Our records are spotty in some cases. So I'm not sure if we've offered in the past much else beyond that in terms of winter driving. But, so somebody may correct us in the comments if we're wrong, but, as far as I can tell, we have not expanded past that until now. And, Steve and Roz and a few others in our motley crew were kind enough to be guinea pigs for the club. Earlier this year and testing out this Finland experience. So, but the club does offer and has been for a number of years doing not just Seefeld, but also what used to be called Dolce Vita, which was Northern Italian kind of tour, if you want to call it. Club members, guests would get to pilot R8, V10 Spiders through the Northern Italian Alps down into Lake Garda or Lake Como. I can't remember.
Lago di Garda, yeah.
And back up through Munich. And so we've been doing that almost, I believe, annually for a number of years now. And unfortunately, that program has sunset, and we're doing a different one called Alpine Tour now. That's I believe when this airs, we still have some limited seats available. That's chartered for October of this year, which takes our guests, again, R8 Spider, but also RS e-tron GT performance, and also the brand new RS5 Avant, be driving that into Austria, into the Alps in Austria. So really cool experience. We can talk more about, and I can plug that later, but that's kind of the history of Audi Club, partnering with Audi Driving Experience, those events. We'd love to do more of that. And I think this is kind of our, you want to call it our claim to start that process, right? We're expanding the winter driving, and I believe we're looking towards the future of expanding other opportunities for folks to go overseas and really, have a really cool lifestyle-oriented, performance-oriented experience, even potentially with cars that we don't get here, right? So if you're an enthusiast, I'm sure many of our viewers will probably post in comments and learn about certain models we don't get here, right? Audi Driving Experience is one of those kind of opportunities to kind of, taste the forbidden fruit, so to speak. So, and we did. So I won't go into too many details here on the cars we drove in Finland, but we will here in a second.
Fantastic.
Just to pick up on what Chris was saying about Dolce Vita, Roz and I, our first Audi Driving Club experience was in 2017, driving the R8 Spider's phenomenal trip. Previous to that, we had done a few Audi Club events, a couple of driver's ed, but that was our first experience, and just a fantastic experience just to sort of pick up on, what Chris described.
That's great. So that was your first one, Steve and Roz, and how many have you done since?
Two more. So we did Seefeld in January 2012 and then Finland just recently. So 3 Audi Club driving experiences, and each one has been phenomenal and probably better than the previous one.
Well, it's nice, I think, too, because kind of what Chris was alluding to with the combination of lifestyle and performance. The R8 trip was some performance, but it was more lifestyle. But it's kind of hard to miss with Italy and spending time in Verona and Lago di Garda. Although we did get to drive pretty fast on the Autobahn.
We got pretty fast when we had a lot of time. We had one morning that they gave us the option of either you can do things around the spa, the hotel, or you can take the cars and go out on a drive for a few hours. So, of course, we went out on the drive and just toured the countryside for a few hours in an R8. I remember vividly, we showed up at the Munich airport, did our orientation, and the 10 cars were parked outside, all the keys, and they said, just pick a car. So literally, we picked a yellow one.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was really spectacular. But it's funny, that was the most lifestyle-oriented trip. Seefeld had some lifestyle, but I think to a certain extent, because it was wintertime, it's a little more limited, but there was more instruction. Although we had the same driver leader in La Dolce Vita as we did in Seefeld, Stefan. It was much more performance-oriented in Seefeld. And then when we got to Finland, it was all performance, which For the people who attended, that was...
And thank you, Chris, for designing that program specifically.
And discouraging the planners. Like, they're not all that interested in reindeer.
Reindeer, yeah.
They'd probably rather drive.
Much time on the ice as possible.
That's great. So that brings us to Finland. So why Finland? Not that there's anything wrong with Finland, of course. It's beautiful and and all that. But what made what was the decision behind the next Audi Club driving experience being in Finland?
I think, Chris, at our farewell dinner last in January of 25 in Seefeld, we had a wonderful dinner, sleigh. It was a beautiful sleigh ride, although it was not. It was horses. Because they couldn't, and it wheels. It wasn't a sled because there was no snow, of course. But we went to this wonderful Tyrolean restaurant, and sitting there finishing dinner, Chris said, "So, there's this program they do in Finland, and what do you guys think?" And immediately, all of us said, "We're in. If you can pull it off, we're in." So, to Chris's credit, we got the email, I think in August, Chris, that you said, "Hey, good news. I was able to arrange Finland," and immediately, you've got to give us a quick yes or no because I'll put it out to the general membership, and we just, of course, signed right up.
Well, 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. So that's why Finland, Joe. Yes, and Roz and I had never been to any of the Scandinavian countries, and people asked, "Why are you going to Finland
in February?"
In February.
But it's Lapland is where we were, and it's spectacularly beautiful. It's magical. There's a reason that fairy tales are written up there. And it was also so exciting to be thinking that you're driving on a lake. This wasn't a frozen field where, if you broke through the ice, you were going to hit some grass. This was a foot or a meter thick ice in the middle of a lake. And it was just mind-bending. I mean, it was really cool.
yeah, that's awesome. And that was that your first ice driving experience that you've ever had?
Other than the Seefeld experience, which was ice driving, and there's no doubt I bit the dust personally walking on the ice.
A little more snow, a little less ice. I mean, we had a little more grip in Seefeld than we had in Munja because just the surface, of course.
But it was very slick in Seefeld. There's no doubt about it. You were on ice. But it just felt, I guess it felt more real in Finland because it wasn't an artificially created surface. It was natural.
It was nature. Now, Roz and Steve, you both have, or I believe, some regular DE driving experience, right? That you've done in the past.
That's sort of how Roz and I met, through a mutual connection in the Porsche Club. I started Porsche Club racing in 1998. I still continue to race to this day. I race a 1978 911 SC, do some drivers ed events. In fact, organizing a track day next Sunday at New Jersey Motorsports. Roz started doing driver's ed 97 as well. So we try to get
one of very few women. Still very few women out there. I always encourage women to get out there and take control of the car.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Actually, so just a small side note. So I'm the vice president of the PCA region near you in Riesentoter. So our track chair is a woman, Catherine, and we're definitely always trying to get more women out on the track and involved. So how, being track folks for 30 some years, right? So how did the driving on ice, how did that translate?
Relatively well, I think, because we had the skill set of look where you're going, don't panic. Both of us are. I learned how to drive on the manual. I drive a manual transmission. Not that the cars on the ice were, but just having a sense of paying attention while you're driving, and enjoying the driving experience, as opposed to, is this car luxurious enough, and where's my coffee holder, and I want to be on the phone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, certainly a little more challenging than driving on a track. You don't want to be drifting as much. I mean, if you are, you're doing something wrong. I mean, my 911 can get a little tail happy, but I don't want to.
Sure, sure, sure. So, no 911s on this trip, but you did have some pretty cool cars you got to drive, right? So,
Oh, we had fantastic. Similar car. We'd spent most of our time, save one lap in an RS e-tron GT, but in the S5 Avant, which we had the same cars last year in Zeefeld.
Fantastic.
Fantastic car. I wish we could get them here. Little push for but no, great cars. And the beauty is, no, Roz and I we had our own car, number 11, for all 3 days, basically. It was wonderful. We showed up and the cars were all ready each morning, all warmed up, ready to go, all gassed up. And it was a lot of fun just to share, obviously have their same car for the 3 days. Great car. And then the e-tron GT, we did a time lap. Chris will maybe talk a little about that as well. But we were able to take that car out. Last year, we had a full day in the e-tron GT on Zeefeld. This year, we just had a chance to do one lap on one of the road courses that they set up.
Okay. And how was the car set up? Did it have like studded tires on it?
It had studded snows, no can studded snows. Yeah.
And they did suggest when you got in the car to make sure you put it in comfort mode, and then you turned off the ESC. They made it as sort of loose and unnannied, if that's a word, as possible, which I think was really important, because it made you feel the car.
Right. And did you have an instructor in car with you, or did you communicate through radio? How did that work?
Just through radio. So Harold, who was our instructor, and he was assisted by Nadine. Again, two wonderful folks. We had about an hour orientation the first morning, Saturday morning, just to go through sort of what's to be expected. Went over some of the issue controls in the car, things we should be, like Roz said, settings in the car and so forth. And basically, we got out of there. We had the Audi swag. It was wonderful. I think, Chris, you might be wearing the jacket from.
Yeah, you look like you're wearing the jacket. It's too hot.
You got a jacket. We had some great Audi swag. Basically, just followed Harold. It was about a 7 or 8 minute drive from the hotel to the track. We got to the track, and Harold initially set us up on a couple of exercises. We had a radio in the car. Harold never drove with us. Basically, Roz and I were in the car for the whole 3 days. He was communicating via radio, but no, it was just the two of us in the car.
Yeah.
I think I could rewind a little bit too. Steve and Roz are pretty, I would say, humble about their HP driving experience or capacity. They're very serious drivers and very modest about their capacity or capabilities. But one thing was interesting about this group, because we were talking earlier about the difference between this trip and Dolce Vita, right? Lifestyle versus performance. Audi driving experience has different programs that they quote unquote offer, but don't really always market, right? And so, one thing that we've learned through having gone on a couple of these is the opportunity to customize, especially, and that's a benefit of doing this with Audi Club, is the Audi Club can come in and say, well, we're going to buy out a wave, and we want to customize it and tailor it to our audience, right? Instead of saying, all right, turnkey, here it is, you're going to do all these other activities. Let's focus on what your group wants, right? And so, looking at Steve and Roz right there, they wanted performance, right? Well, it was the whole group from SAFA wanted performance, right? It was almost like, all right, what's next? We're out here doing car control, and that's cool, the braking reaction time and skid, let's do more Scandi flicks. Let's do, and then we saw that Finland was effectively a rally course on ice, a frozen lake. And, with carved out snow, and, it's almost like natural barriers, right? You got to be careful. It was this whole like, all right, this is the next level. And, not to fast forward too far, but even after this trip, it's like, all right, how do we keep pushing it further? So, to say this trip may not be for every club member or may not be for everyone. And that's currently what we're doing, is trying to figure out, all right, how do we, what's the balance we strike for next year? And the intent is to offer Finland. This was a private club test, if you want to call it, or pilot. So it was not made public to all members to access, but our intent is to launch that for 2027, and dates will be coming this summer we'll be working with ADE to get those secured. So yeah. For folks who are listening and are thinking, man, maybe there's a lot of performance, maybe not for me. It may not be, but it also what we organize for 27 may look a little bit different too. Just note that we wanted to kind of put things to the test and kind of take it to the other end of the spectrum to see what really was possible. And there's even more that can be done. And I don't want to tease too far, but Stephen was talking about us driving the RS e-tron GT for a lap session. We also got a ride along in effectively a rally spec RS3.
Then we were in the car with Harold.
Harold got to show off. And I'll pick up on saying, although we had a lot of time, Harold, it was clearly he was watching everyone, and he would make corrections. He would offer to go into the car if someone was maybe having difficulty with something. But on the other hand, if you were doing okay for the next 45 minutes or an hour, this is our course. And there were several courses, the longest course being about 6 kilometers, all carved, on the lake. And, we just would go out and he'd say, okay, do a couple laps. Roz and I do a couple laps, come in, she'd do a couple laps. Because it was after a couple laps, you're ready to sort of ride in the right seat, But we literally had probably an hour sessions, like, each session roughly maybe an hour just out there. Doing laps.
That's awesome. Now that course, like how's it set up as far as when you go to your regular track, right? You've got all the flag stations and flags and corner workers and all that
you
stuff.
had nothing. No
right.
corners.
You're just you in the car, right?
I'll have to say Roz was better. She can pick up a course faster than me in terms of when she's sitting there, okay, what's coming up? Because it was very hard because, of course, all you're looking at is white. There's no markings, there's no anything. So in terms of anticipating the next corner or the next sequence of corners, she picked it up a little faster in some of the courses. She said, okay, it was almost like a rally, like coming up.
I would tell them, okay, there's a couple of S's here and then slow down. There's a really big hard turn. It's almost a U. The other thing I think was funny is it's almost pure white.
Yeah.
So it's, even though there are white walls, so to speak, they were only about maybe 2 feet high.
Yeah.
So you could see other cars.
And you would get spray too sometimes.
And you get spray.
You could get spray if you got a little close.
But the other thing was you could see the road, so to speak, because it was quite a dark gray. And you got to sort of learn like, oh, I'm aiming for that little bit of snow.
You were trying to find whatever little snow to get a little more traction, a little more braking, And again, like Chris, the slow in, fast out really holds, I think, especially in this. But I was looking for every patch of snow just to help with some braking, maybe.
Right. So it's kind of like when you drive a regular track in the rain, right? You're just looking for that right line. Yep.
And left foot braking. Clearly, we became big fans of left foot braking in this instant, and pretty much doing that exclusively for the whole time. It just really, really helped. I found it.
Oh yeah, no, me too. As soon as I started the left foot braking, it made all the difference in the world. And the lighter the hands on the wheel, the better. You're just like this, and you're tapping and you're using all 4 appendages independently of one another. And it was, the death grip doesn't work. It really...
The cars were very forgiving to a point, but when they let go, they let go.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can do on ice.
Yeah.
It's true. I was thinking you're talking about the snow and trying to find that grip. And, by the second day, I remember, because my co-pilot was Cliff Wong, a member out of Golden Gate, and he was going to try to make it for this, but fortunately had a scheduling conflict. But he and I remember talking about it, and we'll have some B-roll we'll probably show here on the podcast about it. But it was becoming more comfortable with having nose so close to some of those turns, just to get your tire to catch some of that edge on braking in. Or even through the turn to get some grip. It was almost like relearning how you how you would take some of those apexes again. It's not traditional, right? To a normal kind of HPD or dry course kind of environment. Really have to unlearn what you'd learned.
Remember, Chris, was it the morning of the second day? For the first few laps, we had pretty much all snow, and then of course it got worn out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But for those first few laps, we were having a blast because it was just a light layer of snow.
You could go so much faster.
Yeah.
And that was the big course too. That was the one that was.
That was the one that had it was snow covered. And who thought you could drive so fast on snow until you're like, oh yeah, because it's much grippier than ice.
Yeah, we're doing at least, I know I had over 60, almost 70 miles an hour on ice on that course that day. And then by the time everybody came out, I was like, yeah, good luck. It was just carrying that speed, be hitting walls, by the time
You would have had the tractor.
The tractor, yeah, right.
Oh my gosh. Oh, the tractor. Did you all get pulled out with the tractor?
We never did. No, we had no punches in our card. And we actually never lost any air in our tires, Chris. I think we were maybe the only ones that didn't have to have the.
We were unscathed.
I mean, we definitely hit some snowbanks, but whatever reason, the tires held air. That was interesting, Joe, because if you hit it, like Chris was saying, they had a tractor because if you got a little too deep, even the Quattro wasn't going to get you out of the snow. So they had a gentleman on a tractor and you'd radio in and he'd come over and we were each given part of our name card had little marks on the back to be punched every time you had to be pulled out. And that was sort of the mark of
shame.
Mark of shame. But they were pretty quick about getting you out. But again, typically you'd have to stop because of the tractor. So that, you'd have to wait till the car in front of you was pulled out. So
I mean, it sounds obviously like a lot of fun, and it sounds like a great group. What was the group dynamic like with everybody there? Like, how many folks were in your driving tour, and kind of what was the dynamic like between everybody that was out there? Well,
there were 10 of us. 8 of them were from Seefeld, so we actually already knew one another. So when we all met up at the airport in Helsinki, it was like, oh, hey, how are you? And then the other 2 were a couple that Steve and I know who are drivers, and they blended in right away. And it was a somewhat eclectic group, but I think we all have this common interest, and I think everybody really enjoyed everybody. It wasn't particularly competitive. I think everyone was just excited to be there and excited to support each other. And
yeah, no, that's great. So speaking of competitive, I mean, was there anybody? Were there timed laps? Was anybody keeping tabs on that? Steve had to time his laps.
Well, Chris and Steve both medaled.
So yes, we had a few. Seefeld, we only had one at the end of the program. We did a little 2-lap autocross, basically, that we were timed. That was the only timed event. Here we had, maybe 4 timed events or something. One was in the e-tron. The 1 lap in the e-tron GT was timed. And the other 3 were in the S5 Avant, basically, on different courses and so forth. So, but yeah, they had a little ceremony at the Sunday night rather. And, we got some medals and it was fun. It was just a healthy competition, whatever.
Right.
But it wasn't like nasty. It
wasn't. No.
I mean, people were making fun of my husband here because he was number 1 in Seefeld and he was number 1 in Finland as well. But and he's the old fart too.
I was the old man of the group. Yeah.
Good.
With me right behind. But it was sort of fun, poking in the ribs kind of thing. It wasn't anything unpleasant at all.
Yeah, I would think that to add to that, it was like, thinking about that because you're out there, and we talked kind of, I guess, and we're insinuating this, but it's a ton of seat time. The way that this was structured was it was more seat time than most HPDEs, to be out there. So by the end of the day, it's a lot of mental concentration. Yeah, you're kind of tired, but even still, talking about team dynamic or group dynamic, we're at dinner every night and we're all talking about, all right, what did you think about the course? Or, what did, tips and tricks? Because we're all just trying to be our best, our own personal best. And I think that kind of carried over. It was trying to learn from each other and diverse to tie on to what you were saying, Roz. It's very diverse in terms of age, geography, background, interests, careers. And what was cool about it is that we all had the same challenge, right? We're out there, we're challenging ourselves and challenging the ice, challenging the car. And that process, it's not dissimilar from, our local driving programs, HP culture in general is you're out there and you're having a shared experience. And through that, you're developing relationships with people that you may not otherwise have ever had that opportunity with. And that's cool. I'm sorry, but that's cool in today's age to be able to have an opportunity.
No, that's fantastic. So everything, the lodging, everybody stayed together, everybody ate together. That was all kind of the whole
We met at the
package, right?
airport.
Yeah. And just a little sidebar on the lifestyle component. Just because it's unbelievably fabulous to travel in an R8 in Italy and dine on food in Verona, Finland was spectacular, and the food was lovely, and the hotel was fantastic. I mean, we each had little tiny apartments with kitchens, and there were 4 different restaurants available at this place because you obviously can't really go anywhere. But I mean, the place we had dinner at the last evening was what they call a quattro, which is almost like almost the equivalent of like an American teepee.
Teepee, yeah.
And it was all windows, so you could see the stars above, and I wouldn't poo-poo the lifestyle component of this trip either. It's not like we were staying in a Motel 6. It was lovely.
No, and I think, Chris, you captured some pictures. I mean, first of all, your picture of the Northern Lights Saturday evening. Chris was brave, and it was chilly. I mean, it never got probably above 0 Fahrenheit, right? I mean, it was well below 0, pretty much. But it was a dry cold, telling people, and the snow was it was funny. It was just because Roz and I were winter people, were skiers, but this was a different type of cold. But Chris braved it on Saturday night and got out of any ambient lighting. I don't know how far you had to hike, Chris, but he took some great photos of the Northern Lights, and people were saying, well, you got to see the Northern Lights if you go to Finland, right? But yeah, to pick up on that, I mean, the staff was great. In fact, Roz and I were delayed. We got bumped off of our connecting flight, and we didn't arrive until a few hours after everyone else. And there was a nice little dinner waiting for us in our room, just, because they knew we probably, we're hungry after a long trip. So yeah, it was just fantastic, accommodations and really friendly people.
Nice. How does it's probably an impossible question to answer because it's so different, right? But how does it compare to other Audi events that you've attended in the past? How does this Finland driving experience compare to just other Audi events that you've been to?
We haven't done too much. I mean, we haven't done too many other social events with Audi Club, to be honest. Okay. We don't do much with Porsche.
We tend to stick to the driving end of things.
Yeah, we've gone to done a few social events here and there, but I mean, each trip has been different, Joe. But different experience. But again,
spectacular.
5-star everything. Audi, every attention to detail. I mean, nothing. You weren't lacking for anything. So, kudos to the club for.
We did that Audi event up at Monticello.
Monticello, yes, we had many years ago. We went up to Monticello to do like a half track day or something.
Yeah. But that was about introducing cars that are here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more hospitality orientation in that event, but that was also, I would describe it as typical Audi, like just really lovely with and again, I mean they got nice swag and nice that they make sure that there's good food to have, and then that are the explanations of because I don't think either of us had ever driven Monticello, so there was like good track orientation, and there was a couple lead follows, but it was, I think the best way to describe it for me is typical Audi, really really high end.
I know when I saw the program, when I heard from Chris that he was going, I was a little bit jealous. Then I saw his pictures, and then I was a little bit more jealous. Now I'm talking to all you folks, and now I'm really kicking myself. But it's only going to get better from here, right? So what's going to happen? How we scaling things up, Chris and Steve and Roz? Where do we go from here?
We go back in a heartbeat.
Yeah. As we were leaving, we said, well, okay, I guess the decision's been made that we will winter in Lapland and summer in Italy. So
yeah, it's a good question. Regardless of what, I think there's a core interest. I feel like I've made lifelong friends on this trip already in these past 2 trips. And, I don't know if it's the magic of just our personalities or just the shared experience. We'll never know, but I think there is a commitment to wanting to continue at least for our small group, to do something, whether that's with this bigger group or maybe we take it another level further and try to figure something out that we can then bring back to the club and make accessible. But regardless, I would say for 2027, the intent is to do a full wave, 20 seats participants for Finland. And so, we're waiting. We'll be getting dates for that and working with Audi Driving Experience to customize that offering sometime in July. So if you're interested, you hear this and you're like, how do I become part of this? How do I sign up, get information? If you go on our website, we have a driving experience page. You can click there and there's a link to sign up for the, it's like a waiting list, but it's like an email list where you'll be the first to hear about dates and details before they're communicated more broadly. So, it doesn't cost you anything. We don't spam you. Sign up and you'll get the first information about it once it goes live. So, but beyond that, it's mild to wild with Audi Driving Experience. And, we got a little taste of what wild could really be right before we left Finland with Harold Budmer, who was a former rally driver, mind you. We talked about this. He drove for Suzuki and Opel back in the 80s. Had seen Hanno Mikkola, Rural, Mouton back in the Group B days do their thing. So he's been around a minute, unsuspecting, incredibly talented. But when he drove us in that ICE RS3, he was like, "Oh, this is a special car. We have a fleet of these things for very special training." But
Yeah.
we're going to be doing next year. Time will tell.
Okay, I did not know that.
I didn't know that either, but really, he said, okay.
That would be super cool.
Yeah, it's more hardcore, right?
You need some guinea pigs for that.
So we'll be talking to them about potentially what that looks like, and that's not something that's always at least clear on their program side of what's available. But now that we know it is an option, who knows? We may have to look into it. But the club certainly recognizes that there's interest. It's tough when I will be just transparent here, working with an outfit out of Europe. Their programs are generally tailored to a European market. And these are people who can buy a cheap connecting flight, right? Overnight bag, travel light, because from Germany to Finland isn't as far as San Francisco or, East Coast of Finland, right? So, the benefit of working with club here on all of these things is that we take that in consideration. We advocate for certain, I don't want to call them amenities, especially like for our Dolce Vita tours, we get extra vans that accompany to accommodate luggage. So again, if you're thinking, why would I go with Audi Club versus trying to figure it out on my own? We make it easy, make it turnkey, and we want to make sure that you have the best possible experience and among fellow club members and people of shared interests. So, but that said, there's other opportunities, other programs that we haven't really scratched the surface of yet, and there's a driving experience center. So looking forward to this year, right? We've got Alpine Tour, which is in Austria, departing out of Munich in October. Don't quote me on how many seats are left. It's a handful. And they may be sold out by the time this airs, who knows? But if not, check the website, ping us, email us. We can tell you about it. But one thing we've done to kind of, again, raise the bar for this tour this year is we are adding a half day of closed course driving experience on the Neuburg/Audi Sport test track in Neuburg. So not only is it just this, lifestyle oriented tour where you're driving R8, RS e-tron GT Performance, and RS5 Avant, you're also getting a half day at the Neuburg facility in R8 V10 Coupe lead follow instruction on their handling course, which is really cool. So, again, trying to kind of balance that performance and lifestyle. You're going to be seeing more of that kind of coming forward as we really kind of find our rhythm in terms of customization for these programs for our club member audience. But the sky's the limit, and but we want to make sure we do these right. So it's, of course, trying to scale these out in a way that makes sense and a way that obviously we fill seats, but also is valuable and provides maximum satisfaction to our customers, to our members.
That's fantastic. Sounds like some great programs are coming up. So that's super exciting. To be clear for folks, I don't want folks to maybe get intimidated, right? Roz and Steve, you both obviously have a lot of track driving experiences and club racing. Chris, you've got a lot of driving experience. for somebody that maybe doesn't, right? These programs cater to them as well, right? You don't have to have a racing license. You don't have to even have done HPD before, right? You can go out there and still have a good time.
For Finland, they did want you to have at least done the Seefeld experience so that you had some basic understanding of driving on the ice. Because I do think that that's a little bit intimidating. But like the Dolce Vita tour, I was the only woman that drove. It was 10 couples, and I was the only woman that drove. And the day that we had to ourselves, there were 9 women doing spa stuff. And me, I mean, so it would, it was fine. It worked out fine. I think the more driving stuff is you're going to get a different audience. Because there aren't that many wives that go to a track either. But that's also what was so lovely about Seefeld and this trip was it was 3 husband-wife couples with all driving wives, which is a little unusual. A father and daughter, although Anya didn't make it to Finland, but one was a father-daughter, one was a father-son. So I think there's a lovely opportunity for family connections as well. So, and then, there was Chris and Cliff, and they developed a lovely friendship.
Yeah.
Because they were there on their own, and it didn't matter. It became completely fine.
And I think Seefeld, to pick up, was much more, it was just a much smaller environment, much more controlled, Joe, so you didn't feel as intimidated.
No,
I think
not
someone,
at all.
if you hadn't done Seefeld and you showed up at the lake, I think it would perhaps be a little intimidating because, where Seefeld, you're in it's a field, basically. It's like an autocross, a lot of cones. The worst you could do is hit a cone.
You could see everything.
I mean, you had to really work to hit anything other than a cone. So that, I think, was easier. Yes, you wouldn't need any experience. I mean, you could just show up, and once you learn the car control, the basics of the car, those were very much progressive type exercises at Seefeld. Started out very basic and then built on that for the 3 days. So
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So what would you say to somebody who's maybe on the fence about joining one of these things? The registration's up there, the dates are announced, they've got their credit card out, they're sitting there, they're looking at the screen, they're looking at their car, trying to decide what to do. Are they going to go? Are they not going to go? What would you say would be the nudge to put them over the top? Why would you say, hey, you just got to do this?
I think it's just like we said, the whole life, besides the fact you're driving phenomenal cars, and certainly some cars that we can't even drive here, it's just the whole experience. I mean, and the price point, the way Audi prices it, it's really quite reasonable when you think of the all-in pricing, other than airfare. So when you think about if you went on your own, first of all, where are you going to be? You're going to be able to rent. You got to find a hotel, and then
you have to rent a car. You have to feed yourself.
Well, go rent an R8, right? I mean, if you try to duplicate that and show up in Munich and try to rent an R8 and drive around for 3 days, and
yeah.
Plus, it's just the camaraderie as well. So, yeah, I'd say go for it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
If you're on the social membership end of the club, you do the Alpine Drive. If you're on the performance end of it, you go to Seefeld. And both of them, you experience the car, and both of them you have the lifestyle experience, but it's more accentuated, on the lifestyle with the sort of tour. And then with the driving experience, it's a little, because I wouldn't have described the Dolce Vita as a driving experience per se. That was absolutely delightful to drive an R8 through the Alps, and
it wasn't a lead follow at all. Pretty much, we'd have the GPS, the map program for the day, so you were on your own. I mean, they did encourage you. Yes, they want you to all be at
lunch,
arrive at dinner, not go off on your own for hours and not show up for lunch or dinner. But you pretty much were on your own. I mean, the cars were fueled up each morning. We'd show up and the cars would be fueled and you'd be off for the day.
But they also, the routes that they took you on were beautiful driving tours. Not, you weren't on the highway getting from A to B. So it was more focused on that component of driving as opposed to, the performance component.
Certainly sounds like fantastic programs. Something that everybody should give a try at least once. I'm hoping that I can free up my schedule in 2027 and join you folks on one as well. Absolutely. So before we wrap up, Roz and Steve, any final thoughts about the experiences you've had with the Audi Club driving? Anything else you want to share or talk about?
Well, kudos to Chris, because he has really just stepped it up unbelievably. Because, we went in 2017 on La Dolce Vita. We thought about Seefeld, and
because it was mentioned to us. Stefan had mentioned, by the way, we do have this program, but
for whatever reason, we didn't push it that hard.
And it wasn't available.
And then it wasn't available for a while.
I was on a waiting list, actually. I think what happened is maybe a few years later, and it opened up. All of a sudden, I got an email saying, "Hey, we were able to do Seefeld. Are you in?" This was in mid 24, I guess, or something. Chris, right? Yeah, I think.
Well, no, I think we had looked into it, and it did fall off the face of the earth for some reason. I'm not sure why. And then it was a big birthday for Steve, and so I said, "You know what? We talked about doing this one day." I said, "Now is the day. So let's just do it." And then it was so fun, and we had such a good time, and the group was so great, and we all were like, Finland, and I think some of us, I know I certainly thought like, yeah, right. But then when we got the email, it was like, oh my God.
Chris pulled it off. Chris pulled it off.
Like, oh my God, we're going to actually do it, So it was really.
Yeah, no, kudos to Chris. Again, I just sort of want to second that.
I appreciate that. It's certainly not about me. And when I think about, the offerings and the challenges of again, bringing, a U.S. audience to a European program, that's, it takes effort, and some things we can't control. Right. But that's the attention to detail that the club brings and tries to provide in bridging that gap and making sure that we have a, consistent, cohesive experience. We skipped Seefeld for a couple of years. We did, because of scheduling, frankly. And, it's challenging just from a project management perspective. We won't get into the weeds with you all about that, but we've been able to improve kind of how we work and directly with the program organizers to be able to get more proactive dates now, and it's only been more beneficial now to us and to members, right, for us to be able to offer these things now. So we figured out our groove, so to speak, and communication now with those teams and understanding who does what. So, it's only, to greater things from here, and hopefully some really cool experiences kind of downstream for you all.
Chris, before we wrap, anything else that you want to talk about what's coming up or the experience, anything at all?
Just, sign up for the mailing list if you're interested in any kind of Audi Club driving experience with ADE, that's upcoming. And again, if there's seats available by this time that this launches, take a peek at the Alpine tour that's coming up in October. You get to effectively drive the all-new RS5 Avant before any U.S. variant comes here next year. So it's kind of a sneak preview in that hybrid RS tech. So check it out. And for all things Audi, stay tuned, keep in touch and visit our website.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, as a reminder to everybody, don't forget to check out AudiClubNA.org for all the latest news and stories regarding Audi and the club. And if you're not yet a member of the world's largest Audi community, like everybody on this podcast is, check out the description in this video to learn more about all the reasons why you should join and be part of this great organization. So thank you to everybody who tuned in, and thank you so much for joining me here today, Chris, Steve, Roz. Much appreciated. Thank you for all your input and for your time today. And to everybody else, again, thank you, and we'll see you next time.